I'd like to introduce to you our speaker for tonight, Mr. Robert Ennemoser from Austria. His subject is Learn to Heal with Christian Science, a practical introduction. I hope you'll enjoy it. Thank you.
So, thank you very much for your kind introduction. Thank you. I'm pleased to be here in this charming northern landscape, which is full of cliffs and the sea, the rough sea. It's beautiful here. I invited you to join me today to walk into the landscape or the land of Christian Science healing. I will show the first steps I myself did in this respect. It was the time, some 20 years ago. At this time I practiced homeopathic healing. And I read about Christian Science healing, and I was very much astonished about it, because they do not use any remedies. They report clear-cut, nice, deep healings, and they do not use any remedies, which was stunning to me. Christian Scientists do not use any mind power, mind over matter. They do not use the power of will, or of suggestion, of hypnosis, something like that. They do not use the power of faith. They do not use the power of prayer of petition, for example. So, what do they really use? I had to go deeper into that. And I found very clear-cut ideas right in the beginning of its basic textbook, Science and Health, with Key to the Scriptures. And I would like to show you the very first sentence of it. The book is written by Mary Bigaretti. I tell you more about herself a little later. The first sentence goes like that. To those leaning on the sustaining infinite, today is big with blessings. To those leaning on the sustaining infinite, today is big with blessings. So I grasped that idea. It is easy to grasp. You need not even to be religious-minded. The sustaining infinite, something infinite. Nearly everybody agrees that there is something infinite behind or beyond of us. I have learned a very few basic thoughts about Christian Science. And then I did a trip up into the mountains in the Alps with a friend of mine. And he became ill there. He was scheduled for an operation right after our trip. And he had an inflammation of the appendix. And it became acute right in the mountains. We were up in the rocks. I had not a big pharmacy, homeopathic pharmacy with me. So I offered him what I could offer him. My very newly found method of Christian Science healing. I didn't understand much of it, but he was happy to get something. So I invited him to sit down in quietness and to be just open-minded. And I myself did very similar things. I also sat down and opened my mind for the sustaining infinite. I rested his life, his being, and myself on this basis, which was said in this book that it would exist. It was not more an experiment than a treatment. But it was a successful one. He became quiet, I became quiet and happy innerly. And he said after some hours, we did it again and again. I'm feeling better now. I can walk with you. And again we sat down and opened our mind for the intelligence of divine, deep life. And again, he found relief. The next day, he didn't talk about some ailments, symptoms like that. After our trip, he even scheduled the operation, cancelled the operation, because he felt something has happened to him. He was fine. He didn't want to have an operation on something which was fine. On a deep level of his experience, he knew he was fine. And he never had anything to do with his appendix. So this was one of my first experiences. But of course, I had to question myself or to explore how deep is Christian Science healing. Is it going deeper than to the psychosomatic level? I had the chance years after that, and I'll tell you another experience with my little daughter. She was 6 at this age, at this time. Today she is 15. So we were in the Alps for skiing, as we do every year for a week. And she was slipping into her skiing boot and said, "Oh, there's some pain on the foot." And I said to her, "Please show me, what is going on here, what is wrong?" And I looked at her heel and I saw a big thorn wart was forming here, bigger than my thumbnail. So, of course, it pierced into her skin and it hurted. I said to her, "Delia, we immediately heal that together now. Sit down on my knee and we separate this from you because it's not what divine love has formed. It doesn't belong to you. So we depart it on this basis. Because life doesn't sustain it. Divine life doesn't form something like that. So, with the sword of spirit, we make a cut here and send it away into nothingness." It was not exercising willpower, mind power. No, we rested on a bigger, divine, infinite principle. This was the basis of our work. And then I let her go away. She is a lively girl, she was a lively girl and she still is. And we couldn't pray a long time. It was just a few moments of adjusting thought, drawing the line, so to speak. This is you, the idea of God, formed by love and life, and such a thing doesn't belong to you. Separated from you. We did this during the day, time and again. I again asked her, "What do we think about your healing? Not how is it looking. It is not so important how it looks. What is our inner mental concept?" We work on the level of concepts of thought. And we purify them. And we purified it again and again. And the next morning, nothing was found. There was no more deformation, no more wart was there. There was a deep crater in the heel, and it was filled up with normal substance during the day. So in the end of the day, we couldn't say which foot it was. There was some principle again at work, the divine principle of healing, which always creates perfect substance and fills up what is necessary. So we see that divine healing also reaches down into the level of organs. So organs are also produced or reflected or manifested by thought. And thought needs to be nourished by the divine ideas about it. So, in Christian Science we learn that man, and I'll show you that a little later, is constituted of ideas. Ideas about being. Ideas which are good, always good. They derive from divine mind, and they are always found in what is good, healthy, positive, full of life, full of love. This is what we work with and what we let our thought rest in. Mary Gray, the author of Science and Health, makes it very clear that we need not to work with the human mind. This is a very important point, because working with the infinite mind opens the way for powerful, mightful healing, infinite power. And we need that. It's not enough if we exercise human mind power. It's not enough to heal big things. Of course, mind power is able to do something, but it doesn't good mostly. It is a small power. So she makes it very clear in the preface to Science and Health when she writes here, the first edition of Science and Health was published in 1875. Various books on mental healing have since been issued, most of them incorrect in theory and filled with plagiarisms from Science and Health. They regard the human mind as a healing agent, whereas this mind is not a factor in the principle of Christian Science. The human mind is not a factor in the principle of Christian Science. So this is very important. Always we step back and give way for the divine presence. It wasn't really clear that something would exist for me before I had experience with that. And of course I trusted more and more into that until I entered the full-time Christian Science practice. Since I saw it is really reliable, it is deep, it is powerful. Another aspect of infinite mind, infinite power, is immediacy. In Christian Science healing, we do not work up from some point of discomfort or disease to some goal which is then health. Most human methods start from somewhere, point A, and work up to point B, so to speak. Very different in metaphysics. Metaphysics, Christian Science metaphysics, tell us about a kingdom of heaven where there is no dualism, no A to B. There is only one power, one phase, so to speak. So we do not have the dimension of time in the divine realm. Time is not the quality of eternity. The quality of eternity is immediacy, here and now. So, when we give a treatment, we always are aware that completeness is a divine fact. It has not to be built up. It is there, behind the clouds of disease or symptoms or whatever. We go through these clouds and look into what really is. It's a little bit like, I give you an image to explain it a little better. Think about if you would walk in a landscape, a foggy landscape, and you will see some golden rooftop. You immediately know there is some castle in this landscape. There is not a floating roof, it's clear. So there's some castle, but you don't see it. But you know there it is. It must have walls, it must have a basement, it must have windows, because this belongs to a castle. So we go directly towards it, and the mist goes aside, and the picture becomes clearer and clearer. In the end, we have the full image before our eyes. The same is what we do in healing. We approach man, real man. God created man who is complete now. This is not easy to grasp, but it's a fact of experience.